2 nights before Emma Walker was killed, her ex-boyfriend staged his own kidnapping. The next morning, someone dressed in black was caught on neighborhood surveillance near her house. By Monday, Emma Walker was dead in her bed, shot through the wall of her own bedroom while she slept. Stay with me. Because this is not just the story of a teenage murder. It is the story of a girl everyone described as bright, funny, and full of life. A relationship that kept getting darker behind closed doors. A crime built out of obsession, humiliation, control, and escalating fear. And an investigation that moved so fast, it ended with the killer being trapped by his own friends, less than 48 hours after Emma was found. Emma Walker was 16 years old and living with her parents, Jill and Mark Walker, and her younger brother in Knoxville, Tennessee. Her mother testified that Emma was a good student who wanted to become a neonatal nurse. She was fun-loving, silly, empathetic, curious, independent, strong-willed, stubborn, and an animal lover. She was also a cheerleader at Central High School, where she had quickly become one of the school's best-known students. To the people who loved her, she was not just the cheerleader who was murdered. She was the kind of kid who made a house louder, brighter, and warmer, just by being in it. That matters, because cases like this can get flattened by the headline. The football player, the cheerleader, the bedroom wall, the murder trial. But Emma was more than the case that would later define her name. She had plans. She had a future. And one of the hardest things about this story is that everyone around her seems to have understood, in some way, that she was trying to get her life back in order right before it was taken from her. Emma and William Riley Gaul started dating when she was 14 and he was 16. She was on the cheer team. He was on the football team. At first, Jill Walker said he seemed nice and sweet to Emma. That is one of the reasons the case is so disturbing. The relationship did not begin with obvious violence. It began the way many high school relationships do, fast, intense, and flattering. But over time, Emma's parents started seeing a different side of him. They monitored her phone and social media and found messages that alarmed them. In one Snapchat message introduced at trial, Riley repeatedly cursed at her, called her degrading names, mocked her insecurity, and said he would check the obituary. That message alone tells you a lot about the emotional climate of the relationship. Not just anger, but degradation. Not just immaturity, but control. And that pattern was repeated again and again in the testimony. Emma's best friend described the relationship as toxic and emotionally abusive. Witnesses said Riley could seem sweet at times and completely different at others. Emma's parents began limiting when and how he could see her. First, they moved him out of her bedroom and restricted him to the common areas of the house. Later, they grounded Emma, took away her phone for stretches of time, and tried to force distance between them because they believed the relationship was unhealthy. But the distance never fully held. ABC News later reported that when Emma's parents took her phone away, Riley gave her an iPod Touch so they could keep messaging over Wi-Fi behind her parents' backs. That detail captures the relationship perfectly. Every attempt to create space was met with another workaround, another intrusion, another way for him to stay inside her life after her parents tried to push him out of it. This was not just a teenage romance with drama. It was a relationship in which normal boundaries kept being challenged, until the adults around Emma began to see Riley less as a boyfriend and more as a threat. By the fall of 2016, the relationship was running on momentum, conflict, and control. Riley had graduated from Central High and was attending Maryville College, where he continued to play football. Emma was still in high school. The distance should have weakened the relationship. Instead, it seems to have made Riley more desperate to keep his hold. A few weeks before Emma's death, he had what his step-grandfather described at trial as a tremendous emotional crisis and attempted suicide. He was hospitalized for 24 hours and scheduled for follow-up care with a psychologist at school. That fact would become one more layer in a case full of instability. By the time Emma tried to end things for good, Riley was already in crisis himself. The final weekend began on Friday, November 18, 2016. That night, Emma was at a slumber party with friends. While she was there, Riley downloaded an app that could generate anonymous calls and texts. Using it, he began sending messages to Emma that made it appear he had been kidnapped. Court records say the anonymous texts instructed her to go outside alone if she did not want someone she loved to be hurt. Emma shared the messages with her friends, went outside, saw nothing, then got more messages demanding to know why she had not obeyed. When she and her friends looked again, they saw a figure lying face down on the ground outside the house. It was Riley. He appeared to be acting disoriented and claimed he had been kidnapped. Emma, shaken and furious, ran straight toward him, demanding to know why he was there and why he was doing this. One of her friends testified that it took her 30 or 40 minutes to calm down afterward. That fake kidnapping matters for two reasons. First, it shows how far Riley was willing to go to manipulate Emma emotionally. Second, it shows how quickly his behavior was escalating. This was no longer just angry texts or possessiveness. He was now staging crises designed to pull Emma into his orbit through fear and confusion. And he was doing it in a way that forced her to respond. That is what coercive control often looks like when it begins turning into something more dangerous. The target is not simply contacted. She is maneuvered, cornered, forced into emotional engagement. The next morning, Saturday, November 19th, the fear returned in a different form. A surveillance camera near Emma's neighborhood captured someone dressed in black walking toward her house at 10:01 a.m., then running back away just minutes later. Around that same time, Emma became terrified by a man in black trying to enter her home while she was alone. Riley later told police she had texted him, frightened, and asked him to come help. He said he rushed over, checked the area, and left when her mother arrived. In his telling, he was the rescuer. But that version had a major problem. A close friend and neighbor believed the man dressed in black was Riley himself. And the surveillance footage placed someone dressed exactly that way near Emma's house at that exact time. That is one of the most chilling themes in the whole case. Riley's apparent desire to create the threat and then step in as the solution. By the time of trial, that pattern had become the center of the prosecution's narrative. The staged kidnapping, the anonymous texts, the figure in black, the sudden arrival to help. It all pointed to a teenage version of something much older and darker, manufacturing fear in order to deepen emotional dependence. Riley was not just losing Emma. According to the state, he was trying to make himself impossible for her to escape. Sunday, November 20th, was the last full day of Emma's life. She went to work, spent time with her family, and had ice cream with her father that evening. Meanwhile, Riley was moving between Knoxville and Maryville. Late that night, he asked his roommate, John Siegel, to let him into the dorm because his mother supposedly had his phone. He borrowed Siegel's phone and used it to contact Emma. Trial testimony showed that after an initial short call, Emma stopped responding. Riley then used Siegel's phone to send multiple texts and place 52 calls to Emma's phone. Siegel testified that he had not made those calls and that Riley returned the phone about 10 minutes later, seeming happy. That detail is devastating. He was not defeated. He was not spiraling in some obvious visible breakdown. According to the witness, he seemed happy. That suggests something had shifted in him after he reached Emma that night. Maybe he got the confirmation he wanted, that she was truly finished with him. Maybe the repeated unanswered calls hardened whatever he had already decided. The point is not to guess beyond the evidence. The point is that just before Emma was killed, Riley was not fading quietly out of the picture. He was still pushing, still calling, still trying to force contact. He was also thinking about the missing gun. At 12:29 a.m., Riley texted his mother, asking if his grandfather had found the handgun that had disappeared from under the driver's seat of his grandfather's vehicle on Friday. His step-grandfather testified that it was a Glock 9mm and that he became alarmed when he realized it was gone, because Riley had recently been suicidal. According to the appellate opinion, Riley's phone then went unusually quiet for several hours around the time of the shooting. In the early morning hours of Monday, November 21st, Riley stood outside the Walker home with that stolen 9mm pistol and fired 2 shots into the corner of the house where Emma's bed was located. The Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals summarized the case bluntly in 2023. He stood outside the Knoxville home of 16-year-old Emma Walker and fired 2 gunshots into the corner of the house where her bed was located, and one of those shots struck her in the head, killing her. Neighbors across the street heard the shots between about 2:50 and 2:55 a.m. Inside the house, Emma's father heard noises during the night and got up to check. He looked into her room and thought she was sleeping. He checked on Emma's brother, checked the bathroom, made sure the doors were locked, and went back to bed. That detail is almost unbearable in hindsight. He was only a room away. He was inside the same house. He had no reason to know that what he had really heard were gunshots entering his daughter's bedroom through the wall. When investigators and the medical examiner reconstructed the scene, the precision of the shooting became one of the most important facts in the case. Emma had a single gunshot wound to the head, with the bullet entering just above her left ear and causing catastrophic brain injury. A second bullet entered the wall behind and in line with her head and body. Detective Richard Merritt testified that someone with intimate knowledge of Emma's room and sleeping habits could use the windowsill and mattress alignment to aim directly at where her head would be, especially if he knew she slept on multiple pillows. Based on the shell casing locations, investigators estimated the shooter was only 4 to 5 feet from the outside walls when each shot was fired. That is why the defense theory later struggled so badly with the physical evidence. At trial, Riley did not deny firing the gun. Instead, after abandoning the kidnapping story and the claim that he had stayed in Maryville during the shooting, he argued that he had fired into the house only to frighten Emma, so he could later comfort her and win her back. In other words, he wanted to terrify her, then rescue her, then become the hero of the story he himself had created. It was bizarre, but the state's answer was simple. If he only wanted to scare her, he had countless other places he could have fired. Instead, he fired twice into the exact corner of the home, where her head would be. The investigation accelerated almost immediately because Riley's own friends started to turn on him. Alex McCarty testified that Riley had shown him the gun on Friday night and warned him it might be loaded. Alex did not believe the kidnapping story, but initially played along because he was worried Riley might hurt himself. By Monday morning, after learning Emma had died, Alex's first thought was that Riley was involved. When he confronted Riley later, Riley admitted the police would put the murder on him if they found the gun, and floated the idea of throwing it into the river. A short time later, Riley texted Alex asking for help disposing of it. That is when Alex McCarty and Noah Walton made the decision that effectively solved the case. ABC News later reported that the two worked directly with police to recover the murder weapon. The boys were wired up. Their conversation with Riley was recorded. The plan was straightforward. Let him lead them to the gun, signal the officers, and let the police move in before the weapon could be dumped. On the recording, Riley can be heard saying he was trusting them with his life, and that the gun just needs to disappear. He believed they were helping him save himself. In reality, they were helping the police save the evidence. The trap worked. Riley led them to the gun, and police moved in as he was preparing to dispose of it. He was arrested with the weapon, and investigators also recovered a bag containing black clothing and gloves. When police searched his vehicle, they found other incriminating details as well. Black duct tape in the trunk, a photo of Emma in the console, and a scratched-out Tennessee flag sticker on the rear window. Little by little, the image of a grieving ex-boyfriend gave way to something far more calculated. His own language hurt him too. During his police interview, Riley referred to Emma more than once as the girl or that girl instead of by name. Detectives noticed it immediately. It was not proof by itself, but it fit the broader impression they said they got from him: emotionally flat, evasive, detached, and rehearsed. For someone claiming he was shattered by her death, the way he spoke about her made him sound strangely removed from the person he claimed to love. Riley was indicted on 7 counts, including first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree felony murder, tampering with evidence, stalking, reckless endangerment, possession of a firearm during a dangerous felony, and theft related to taking his grandfather's gun. He went to trial in Knox County in May 2018. The defense formally admitted guilt to reckless endangerment and argued that the shooting was meant to scare Emma, not kill her. The prosecution argued that the shot placement, the stalking behavior, the fake kidnapping, the black clothing episode, the late-night calls, the stolen gun, and the disposal attempt all pointed to premeditated murder. The jury took about 4 hours. Then it came back with guilty verdicts on first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree felony murder, reckless endangerment, tampering with evidence, theft, and the lesser-included offenses of stalking and possession of a firearm during a dangerous felony. Under Tennessee law, the court imposed an effective life sentence. Reporting at the time made clear what that meant in practical terms. Riley would not be eligible for parole for 51 years. The conviction held. In 2021, Riley sought a new trial, but that request was denied. In February 2023, the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals affirmed the core convictions, modifying only the theft conviction from a felony to a Class A misdemeanor under the savings statute. The remaining convictions, including first-degree murder, were left intact. Later filings show that the Tennessee Supreme Court declined further review in August 2023. Emma's family was left with the kind of aftermath no verdict can repair. She should have graduated in 2018. Her family accepted her diploma in her place. In the years since her death, memorials have been built around the future she never got to live. East Tennessee Children's Hospital dedicated a NICU room in her honor because she had dreamed of becoming a neonatal nurse. Knoxville also now has the Emma Jane Walker Memorial Dog Park, reflecting how much she loved animals. Those details matter because they rescue her from being remembered only through the violence of her death. They return her, at least partly, to the life she was planning. And that really is what makes this case land so hard. It is not only the murder itself, it is the progression, a relationship that looked normal from far away. Cruel messages dismissed as teenage drama, parental concern that kept increasing, control disguised as love, fear disguised as rescue, obsession disguised as heartbreak, and finally, 2 gunshots through a wall by someone who knew exactly where her head would be. Emma Walker's story is not just about one killer. It is also about how violence can build long before it turns physical, how a teenager can be isolated, worn down, and kept off balance by someone who claims to love her, and how the signs, possessiveness, manipulation, staged emergencies, threats, relentless contact, refusal to accept the breakup, can be visible long before the final act. So remember Emma for more than the shot through the wall. Remember the girl who wanted to be a neonatal nurse. The teenager described as funny, silly, curious, and kind. The daughter whose mother still talks about her as the light in their lives. And the 16-year-old who should have had years left. Not a memorial room, not a memorial park, not a courtroom full of evidence about why she died. Because William Riley Gaul wanted to keep control of the story. Instead, the evidence told it for him, and his own friends helped finish it. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. We truly hope this story mattered to you. And if you'd like to support the channel and help us continue creating content, please like the video, leave a comment, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support really makes a difference, and we genuinely appreciate every person who helps keep these stories from being forgotten.